What's up, everybody? Hope y'all are doing good. So y'all, today's video is actually going to be on a topic that I enjoy talking about a lot. I mean, even like in my day-to-day life, I love to talk about this stuff with people, but that is on relationships. Because I have been through my fair share of relationships. I never really had anybody to talk to for relationship advice when I was younger, because I was the only gay person, y'all, in my family. And my family at the time, they did not agree with it. They did not like it. So, you know, I was on my own figuring this stuff out, and I made a lot of boo-boos. I screwed up many times, but here I am. I'll be 31 this year. And I look back to when I was like 21, the past decade, and it's like my mind, like my whole mindset has shifted completely. Like I wish I knew then what I do now, because that would have helped me out so much, and probably would have took me down a better path than the path that I did take, which was, you know, it was a rough one, but you know, it made me who I am today. I got through it. It made me a stronger person, wiser. So for that, I am thankful. So let's get into the video. So y'all, the first tip, or the first thing that I want to tell y'all that I think is very important, and you know, a lot of people are gonna, now in like today's society, people are gonna look at this like, you know, oh, that's dumb. Why would I do that? But to me, don't fully rely on dating apps. You know, I feel like in the gay community, it is harder for us to find others kind of just out and about and bumping into each other. And, you know, because a lot of us, we live in areas that it's not acceptable, or, you know, we don't want to be too outspoken with it. Or either, you know, we're not out of the closet yet. And that's understandable. But at the same time, you know, do keep your options open. And the reason why I say that is because when I was younger, y'all, I used to base meeting everybody on a date app. I thought that is how it had to be done. There was no other way around it. Until I finally realized, I was like, you know, I'm not going to rely so much on Tinder and all that. I'm going to, you know, try to meet someone out in person. And finally, when I took my attention away from it, that is when I met my ex-husband. And I met my ex-husband through my roommate's best friend, you know, because it was very romantic. It was very sweet. It was very old-fashioned the way we met. And it just, I don't know, it set a whole different vibe for that whole relationship. It was a wonderful relationship, even though, you know, we are not together now. It didn't work out. You know, that was some great memories, and it was just a very wholesome experience, kind of bumping into someone like that accidentally, and then, you know, you're together, and you know, you start a whole life and all that. It's a beautiful thing, and it's something that I'm so glad that I did. But, you know, guys, if you can, please try not to focus so much on dating apps. Really expand your horizons, and just try to really look outward. Don't be so glued to your phone all the time, feeling that's the only way you can find someone, because there are other ways. All right, y'all, and the second tip is a big one for me that I learned the hard way many times. And this is if you're looking for a long-term relationship, a long-term partner. You know, if you're looking for a quick fling, looking for something not serious, casual, maybe just a hookup, you know, then just disregard this, because, you know, you do what you think you need to do. But this is my experience from trying to find someone for a long-term partner, as someone who wanted to be a long-term partner as well. But that is, if you're looking for long-term and you meet someone and you're attracted to them, and, you know, they come off as a very good guy or whatever, you know, if things get sexual too quickly, to me, that is a red flag. And it is a red flag to me because I look back in my past, and the people that got too sexual too quick, that was the relationships that did not last very long. It's like, you know, I was too naive and dumb to realize it, so I would give into it. I thought, well, this is just normal, you know, it's supposed to be like this. Well, and then after they got their gratification and what they wanted, I never heard from them again. They just vanished, or either all of a sudden they would be like, oh, you know, I just don't know if I want a relationship anymore. You know, just shoot me a big line of bullshit. Until finally I realized, actually I had people tell me that, and I finally realized, well, that's true, that if someone's getting too sexual too quick, you know, they're probably just after one thing. And if that's what you're after, that's fine. But, you know, make sure you're after it with someone who is after the same thing. You know, that's to me where it morally can be wrong, is trying to get something from someone and y'all not being on the same page about it. So, you know, if things are getting too sexual too quick, y'all, that's a red flag. And, you know, just remind yourself is, you know, a lot of times stuff like that will not work out. Not all the time. I'm sure there's some people, y'all, that got sexual the very first 5 minutes they met and they've been together for 30 years. I'm sure there's somewhere, but not for me at least. And another one, y'all, that is, this one's a personal one right here, is being too clingy too quick. Y'all, when I was younger, I was a very, very unhappy person. A lot of people couldn't tell. I always had a smile on my face. You know, I was always just cheerful, friendly, talkative, whatever. But deep down, I was very, very unhappy with myself. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I was going in life. And I thought all of my happiness was going to come from finding the right man. That is the end-all, be-all to my life, was to find the right man. I put all my eggs in one basket, which is something that I absolutely will never do again. So, you know, me having that mindset, y'all, when I would meet somebody and, you know, I was attracted to them, or, you know, I could tell that they were attracted to me and we had somewhat of a connection, conversation with easy, man, I would go all in. I would be stuck to them like glue. And looking back, it's embarrassing as hell because, you know, what a needy person I was. You know, I would be repulsed with someone like that now. But, you know, just so emotionally unstable, emotionally just needy as hell, unable to really take care of myself emotionally, always needing someone there to do that for me. That was the old me for sure. And, you know, looking back, when I finally got out of that mindset and was never as needy, my relationships improved so much. Like, actually, when I stopped being real needy, I would come into contact with people, meet people that reminded me of my old self. That's how they acted. Like, they were very needy, and it was such a turn off for me. Like, I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I was not attracted to them anymore. I just, you know, goodbye, good riddance, because to me, that signals someone that is not, they don't have all their marbles. Like, they're not totally together. They may be the nicest person, and they may, and, you know, people mean well. Like, I was doing all that, you know, I meant well. I just wanted to be happy, and that's how I thought I had to get it. And, you know, we all deserve to be happy, but I just went about it, you know, in the wrong way. So, you know, watch your clingy levels, watch the person you're talking to, see how their clingy levels are. But, you know, if it moves too fast, too quick, most of the time it blows up in your face, and it's not going to work out. So just keep your mind open to that. And another thing, this has to do with being clingy too, but talking about moving in too quickly. You know, and this isn't like joking about it, or either, you know, staying at each other's houses for periods of time, or, you know, talking about your future together as in moving in. But let's say you meet someone in the first month or two, they're wanting to move in with you, or you're wanting to move in with them. Guys, I'm telling you, I have done that too, and that did not work at all. That was a hot mess express. Because when someone is just, basically, y'all, I just didn't have a life. So I was like, oh, you know, I'm going to make room in my life, make time for whatever boy I'm with. Yes, you can move in with me, or yes, I will move in with you. You know, I had no regard for myself or for what I wanted to do with my life. My life was just going to be completely devoted to them. Yes, I will live with you. You know, and that was just a big recipe for disaster, because, guys, when you move in with someone, that is such a huge change. It is a big decision to make, because you're around someone 24/7. I mean, you go to bed together, you wake up together, you eat together, you probably piss and shit together. Half of y'all do, I don't know. So, you know, you're always right up their butt all the time, every day. And so that can get old pretty quick, and that can get pretty aggravating at times. And, you know, living with someone like that will test your patience like no other. It'll also test how compassionate you are, because this person is, you know, some people have more problems than others. Some people voice their problems more than others. I know that. But whatever problems that person has, you know, they're going to bring home, and they're going to be your problems a lot of the time. And it's how are you going to be able to handle that? It's not easy. And when you can't handle stuff like that very well, I can guarantee you there's going to be a lot of fighting. It's going to be a lot of fussing. It's going to be a lot of bitching and griping. And, you know, it's just not going to be a very healthy place to be. It's going to be very toxic. I know that. My second relationship that I was in, I moved in with him so quick. I mean, I look back on that, and it's just like, you know, how pathetic. But I did. I just wanted someone to love me, so I thought, well, this is what I have to do. I did it. It turned out to be a crap show. It was awful. We fought. We fussed. He was just so clingy on each other. We relied on each other emotionally every single minute of every single day, and it just didn't work out until finally we got to the point where we just hated each other. And, you know, it ended after that. So, guys, please do not move in with people too quick, you know, unless you are absolutely sure that you're ready, because that's a big decision. And, you know, if you really want your relationship to work, I definitely advise you just to really, you know, don't get too caught up in it. Make sure you do the right steps at the right time, because that will really, you know, that'll help you out in the long run. Okay, and another, okay, y'all, and another little tip that I have, and this, I've learned this the hard way too, was don't get into a relationship with someone that just has gotten out of a long-term relationship. For some reason, and I put that in there, y'all, for a reason, because when I was younger, when I would meet someone, it's almost like it was the same thing every time. I always would meet people that just got out of a long-term relationship. Like, every single time I would meet someone, they had just gotten out of something like that. And, you know, it's important to know, you know, there are some people who do get out of long-term relationships that are okay with moving on. They're ready. They've been unhappy for a long time. But, you know, from my experience, those people, they were not ready to move on. They still missed their old life. They missed their partner. They were not ready to start something new with anyone. And, you know, so it didn't work out. So I wasted my time. And, you know, and a lot of people, if they go through a breakup and they've been with someone for so long, you know, they're going to feel lonely. And, you know, I feel like a lot of my problem was they showed enough interest in me to keep me around, to have company. But, you know, I didn't realize that. I thought they really liked me. And then, you know, as time went on, they would move on, and I would, you know, I guess I would just get old to them, and, you know, they would keep playing with my emotions. Oh, you know, yes, I want to be with you, but I don't know if I'm ready yet. And it was just a big seesaw, just back and forth, back and forth. And, you know, when someone is coming out of a long-term relationship, you need to give them their time. You need to give them their space to heal, to move on, because it is not easy. And y'all, I have been the person too. When I got out of my marriage, my first marriage that I was in, I was devastated and I was lonely as hell. I didn't know whether I was coming or going. I was just so lost and confused feeling. And I just wanted someone there so bad. So, and also at the time I was drinking real bad, and so that made it worse. I would, you know, open up to people more, and, you know, be on there talking to people and go on dates with people that I had no business going on with, just to keep myself company, you know. And I was, you know, I never told them that. I guess I would make them feel like, oh, I like them enough to be with them, and it just kind of kept them hanging around. And, you know, that was so wrong of me. But, you know, sometimes you're just in mental states, you don't really pay attention to exactly what you're doing. You know, and when I look back at some of my behaviors that I have done in my previous years, you know, they're pretty sad. It's pretty shameful, but, you know, I've gotten past all that now. And, you know, that's in the past. It would never happen again. But, you know, guys, if they want to be with you and they have just gotten out of a relationship, make sure you tell them to take the time. You know, you'll still be there for them, but to make sure it's something they really want. Because if you really, really, really care about yourself, you need to let other people take the time they need. Because if you get with someone who's not ready, and you want them to be ready, it's just going to be a big tug of war, and you're not going to end up happy. And, you know, I know that from experience. Okay, guys, and the last one, this one's a tough one for me too, is if you're dating someone and you are their first ever boyfriend, or if you're straight and watching this, if it's your first ever girlfriend, whatever, don't put all your eggs in two baskets. Don't put all your eggs into one basket with that as well. You know, because sometimes, y'all, there are relationships that do last a lifetime. People, you know, they meet when they're teenagers and they've been married for years. They have children and they die together. You know, they've been married like 60, 70 years. I have people in my family like that, my grandparents. But, you know, that does not all the time work. You know, and I look back to, in my previous marriage, y'all, I was his first ever boyfriend. And, you know, I should have known better, I guess, than to marry someone like that. But, you know, I cared about him. I loved him. Because my first boyfriend that I had, we were each other's first boyfriend. So, you know, and naturally every time we grew apart and it didn't work, and, you know, so we kind of moved on. But, you know, I was his first. I had already been in several relationships. I had been out of the closet for like, I don't know, like 7, 8 years. So, you know, I had experience being in the gay world. You know, I had been with other people and talked to other people. So, you know, meeting a guy was not anything new or exciting for me, like I guess like it would have been for him. So, you know, we got together, we got married, which we shouldn't have really. You know, I don't regret it. I don't regret it fully, but, you know, we shouldn't have. I would have saved myself a lot of time and trouble. You know, and only for him to realize like 2 years later that he had a fear of missing out. He wanted to go out and more, and he wanted to go out and be able to date other people and talk to other people and see other people. And, you know, that's something that I really should have realized in the beginning, y'all. I should have really, really thought to myself, do I want to move away and move in with someone who has never, ever been in a relationship before? But that didn't happen, you know, because we really, in the beginning, we loved each other a lot. We really cared a lot about each other, and we did a lot to be together. So, you know, I risked it, and it didn't work out. But, you know, at the same time, it made me wiser. It made me smarter. You know, it just made me more knowledgeable, really, in general, about relationships. And, you know, people come to me about relationship advice a lot in general. Like at work, my cousins and stuff, they'll be asking me all kinds of questions. And, you know, I love talking about it. I could be a good therapist if I wanted to. But, you know, my YouTube channel, to me, it kind of feels like therapy. Getting here talking to you guys about stuff and answering questions and whatnot. But, you know, guys, this video could be so much longer than what it is. You know, it's pushing almost 20 minutes now, so, you know, I'm gonna end it from here. But guys, thank y'all so much for watching my videos. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I'll be back in a few days with something else. Y'all have a wonderful week. Bye.